Are you ready to cook with Rock? Today we're making these whole chicken breasts. Very simple recipe. All we did was a quick trim, we seasoned it, threw it on the Traeger, let it run for about 45 minutes till it hit 165. These things turned out juicy and delicious. While those were cooking, I also cooked up a side of rice on the induction top. I've got a whole meal ready. I'm ready to go take this up to my family, so I gotta get out of here. All right, so we're gonna cook just some simple chicken breasts. So this is one that I would imagine most households cook on a somewhat regular basis. But if you're like me growing up, maybe you didn't really like chicken breast, maybe it was dry, or maybe it was like in a baked dish or something like that. And I always tell people when they're looking to get into a pellet smoker, the easiest things you can cook is chicken breast. It just cooks it so much better. You get that air circulating around it. It can feed a pretty good sized crowd with not a huge investment. I have kids, and my kids all love various kinds of chicken, but a lot of times on a busy weeknight, I can throw on some chicken breast. We can eat it pretty quickly, and it really works really well for our family. So, all right, so to get started, what I've got here is just a family pack of chicken breast. So this one, for reference, it's almost 5 pounds of chicken breast, and this one's $12.30, so not super expensive. Probably what we'll do tonight is we're gonna end up eating a handful of these chicken breasts. I'll cut them up into cubes for a lot of the kids, and then we'll have some of these left over to do things like shredded tacos, or to do throw it into like quesadillas, or throw it maybe into like a casserole type dish, anything like that. So chicken breast is a great one that you can meal prep and have it go a long way once you're done cooking it. So with any chicken breasts, you end up getting them, and a lot of times when you get them just from like a grocery store, for instance, where I got this from, is you're gonna have just a little bit of loose skin still to cut off. You're also gonna wanna check and make sure that, you know, where they remove bones and such, that there's nothing to really clean up. And so I just go through each one of these. It only takes a couple minutes, and I kind of trim it up just a little bit, but without getting super aggressive or difficult. Again, just using a nice sharp fillet knife, trimming and discarding, and just kind of taking a look over. One of the things like I was talking about, as you'll see here, so we've got kind of these blood vessels that are remaining. That's from where the bone was attached to the chicken breast. So I'm just gonna take my knife, go ahead and get in there and trim that out. I'm also going to trim off this loose skin. It's something you can, this loose meat. It's something you can definitely leave on there. I just like to kind of trim it up because a lot of times when it cooks, that's going to cook off a little bit or get dry, and not something that people are going to want to really eat anyways. But again, just kind of going through and trimming pieces of skin off that the grocery butcher didn't quite get. And that's really it. So like I said, overall, a very quick thing to trim and get ready, and we're just going to set that over to the side. So I'm just going to do that with the rest of these. All right. So I've trimmed all these up and gotten these all ready. Overall, pretty quick process. Took me just a couple minutes. You may be able to hear the fan in the background. So what that is, that's my smoker. It's coming up to temp. So I'm gonna cook these on my Traeger Timberline XL. I'm gonna cook these at 375 degrees. What I like to do with chicken breast is I like to make sure it's at least over 350 degrees. So that's really important. It's gonna help crisp up that skin, but still get it cooked internally at a reasonable time. The other thing with chicken that I like to do, so, you know, we have these huge chicken breasts, they're very thick. Luckily I have the benefit of time tonight, so I've got plenty of time to cook all these. But if I was in a little bit of a hurry, what I would do is I would take my fillet knife and I would make an incision kind of right in the middle of that breast, slice it all the way down, and then have it into 2 smaller, thinner slices. So obviously that's gonna cook a lot quicker. It is gonna dry out a little bit quicker, and so I try not to do that if we do have the time. But that's something that if you're in a hurry on a typical weeknight, that's something that I do end up doing a lot. But I've got all these ready, and so now we're gonna jump into seasoning. So chicken breast, like a lot of different proteins, you can go multiple different routes. You can go with just a dry seasoning, which is what we're gonna do with these. You can also put them into like a marinade. You know, a quick one that I grew up on was just throwing Italian dressing into these, letting them sit for 30 minutes to an hour in the fridge and get that marinade on them. There's certainly a ton of stuff that you can buy at the grocery store if you wanna go with different flavor profiles. You know, you can do teriyaki, you can do something that's more of like Mexican inspired if you're gonna do tacos with them. So really the kind of possibilities are endless. What we're gonna do tonight is I'm just gonna do 2 different kinds of rubs. So we got a little bit of a different options for everybody. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay these out bottom side up to apply my first layer of seasoning. It also gives me a chance to kind of re-look at, make sure that I got all the trimming done really well, which it seems like I did on these. So I'm gonna dig into my seasoning, take a look at what we wanna do. since I was using my Kendrick knife to prep all these chicken breasts, one of the seasonings that I'm going to use is I'm going to use this Kendrick barbecue all-purpose. So this is a delicious one. It's an all-meat rub. It has some rosemary in there, so that's going to pair really well with chicken. He does have a couple other spice rubs that also go with chicken, but we're going to use this on some of them. And then we're going to grab for one of my seasonings. We're going to go with the tried and true, the one that everybody loves on chicken. We're going to go with the honey chipotle on chicken. So something that I always think about when I'm doing chicken, any pellet smoker, what you're going to get on chicken, which is a light colored meat. If you don't put something with paprika, so that red coloring that you get from a lot of your spices, if you don't put something with paprika, end up getting like this grayish kind of tone. It just looks off-putting, doesn't taste much different, but it just kind of looks off-putting. And so anytime that I'm gonna do chicken, I always grab for something that's got some red tint in it. Obviously deep red color here with the Kendrick one, but we do have paprika in the honey chipotle, so we're gonna get the best of both worlds on those. But we're gonna start with the Kendrick. This is gonna be a little bit more savory, and then we'll go with the honey chipotle, will be a little more smoky and sweet. So to keep everything separated, I'm gonna put my ones that I'm gonna use the honey chipotle on over here. Now, no offense to my guy Kendrick, but I know that my family is gonna be wanting the honey chipotle a lot, so I'm gonna do 4 with the honey chipotle, 3 with the Kendrick barbecue. So with any spice blend, you can always use a binder. You know, for chicken, something you can do is just something as simple as olive oil if you really want to. You can also use something that's gonna impart some flavor, so maybe some Baron Burton's W sauce, something like that. For this, we're kind of just having a normal night, nothing super extravagant. And so I'm just gonna hit it with straight seasoning, straight rub right to it. Let it sit in just a little bit while the smoker's coming up to temp. And then we're just gonna smoke them off as is with rub only on them. So what I'm looking for in my seasoning, I always wanna get just a really nice, good even coat on everything. Even with chicken, just like anything else, I wanna get everything coated really well. So I'm gonna get all the sides as well. Flavors are definitely subjective. I always like to go a little bit heavier. I'm not fearful of any flavor. Even with chicken, just like anything else, if you go a little too heavy or somebody doesn't like a spice blend that you go with, they can always cut it off with a knife at the table. But I will tell you, with my spice blends, as well as ones like Kendrick and Heath Riles, Meat Church, all the ones that we do use, I never get any complaints. So I always try and make sure I find good quality spice blends that have good quality ingredients. And that's the way I know that everything's gonna turn out delicious in the way that I'm looking for. All right, so now we're just gonna do a simple flip. Get the other side seasoned up real nice. All right, I got a couple of the big flakes of seasoning that are getting in there, so we're just gonna go with the nice pour out and hit it. Again, I'm still just looking for that nice even coat. All right, so that's it for the Kendrick side. So transition these bad boys over to our tray. The tray is gonna help us carry them over to the smoker. All right, so as always, I do my best. I try and have one hand that I'm handling the raw meat with, so in this case, the chicken. Then my other hand, I try and keep free. My dominant hand, that's the one that I'm gonna use for the spices. So on this next set, we're going to go with the honey chipotle. Again, this one's gonna give us some sweet, some smoky. Honey is the base, chipotle is a smoky spice as opposed to the spicy chipotle. So kids love this one. This one's great because it almost, with all the honey in there, it almost kind of glazes itself on there. So very good rub. So this one's a little more granular than the Kendrick, and so it'll come out, as you can see, just a little bit faster. Both are fantastic rubs. So as with any rub, I just like to pat it in just to kind of get everything set in there. Let the natural moisture of the meat kind of start to pull in those flavors. And then get her flipped over and season the other side just exactly the same. And just a little more on that one. All right, so now that I got everything seasoned, what I'm gonna do is with the Timberline XL, it comes with 2 wireless thermometers. So what I like to do is I like to grab them and I like to find one of the maybe chicken breasts that are a little bit smaller and put one in there, one of the chicken breasts that are a little bit bigger and put that one in there, and that'll kind of give me a sense of how everything's cooking. I'll also put one of the probes on one side of the grill and one of the probes on the other side of the grill. No matter what the grill is and how much they try, you're gonna have some hot spots on grills. It just kind of happens. And so I just try and kind of plan myself around that and just kind of monitor things. So. All right, so I've got all these chicken breasts seasoned up deliciously. I've got some with my honey chipotle, so that's gonna give us a sweet and a smoky element. And then I've got some seasoned with this Kendrick barbecue all meat rub. It's gonna have some delicious rubs in there, some paprika, some salt, some pepper, but some added rosemary to give it that little bit of extra herb flavor. We're gonna run these at 375 degrees on the Traeger Timberline XL, and they are gonna turn out very delicious. Good. All right, so I've got my Traeger Timberline XL fully preheated. We're at 375 degrees. I've got my Meter Plus wireless thermometers plugged in there, those are going to register to 165 degrees, and that's when we're going to know that our chicken's done. So I'm going to place these on and get them cooking. We've hit our internal temp of 165 on all these, so as you can see, they're looking very delicious. We're going to pull these off. We're going to let them rest for just a few minutes, and we'll get to slicing them open. So we cooked these chicken breasts, and they came out delicious. But a couple tips that I like to leave everybody with. So number one, when I'm cooking chicken on a pellet grill, I want to make sure that I take it above 350 on my cooking temperature. I really like 375 usually. What this does is it allows the chicken to cook in a reasonable time, keeps it juicy still, but then also kind of crisps up the skin, so to speak. Now, I don't mean crispy like you're deep frying it. I just mean crispy for a pellet smoker. Sometimes when you cook it at a lower temperature, you get more of a rubbery skin texture. My second thing that I like to remember, anytime that I'm cooking chicken, especially on a pellet smoker, I always want to hit it with a seasoning that's got some paprika in it. So what paprika is going to do is it's going to give it that red color, that delicious looking color. Chicken, when you put it on a pellet smoker, a lot of times if you don't put something with paprika, you're going to get kind of a gray texture, and it just doesn't look very appealing. Still tastes good, just doesn't look the greatest. So I always like to reach for something that's got paprika in it. And my third tip, what I like to do when I cut these, I like to slice them long ways. So let me show you that. What I'm talking about is you can take a chicken breast and you can certainly slice it along like this. What I like to do to have the right kind of texture to my bites, so I like to slice it long ways. So take a nice even cut, nice even cut, nice even cut. I find that just creates a more delicious bite. Certainly a personal preference, something you can try for yourself at home. Probably not that big of a deal. It's just what I like to do. Now I can cut these into individual pieces. Throw them right on my plate so I'm ready to eat. You can just see how juicy that turned out. Juicy, delicious. I love that. As contrast, I'm going to cut the Kendrick one the other way, just so you can kind of see the difference. So this is probably a more traditional way that you've seen, so you got these nice even cuts. I just kind of like how that texture tastes. As you can see, it kind of, I wouldn't say rips it up, but it just kind of cuts it differently. Again, something that you can do, personal preference. You're not going to hurt my feelings. So these I'm going to leave in the slices. So we got it. We got this deliciously cut plate of chicken. I've got my slices. I've got my chunks. Kind of eat whatever I want to eat. So I got a hungry family upstairs. I am going to head up to them. But I tell you what, I just can't wait to jump into a bite. That is so good. It is so juicy. It is the best way to cook chicken. I'm telling you, if you don't have a pellet grill, go out and get one. Cook chicken on a pellet grill. I guarantee you'll be happy with it. Well, hey, if you're still here, I can't thank you enough. I really hope that you'll like and subscribe to this channel so you can see all my latest backyard pitmaster creations. I got more coming this summer, so stay tuned. Put it in the comments. Let me know what things you want to see me cook, what questions you got. I'll see you.